Hello students, welcome to my channel. Today in this video I will be taking the revision for your half yearly examination, and the chapter which I am going to revise is from the chapter 2 onwards. So this chapter is you have already learned from the class, and also you have seen in the video. Then today as I begin this chapter, so how this chapter 2 in fact is speaking about the new kings and kingdoms uh, in India especially, and how it was formed, and which are the powers in fact invaded, and then later on they became a kind of like a huge kingdom. So today in this chapter, especially new kings in North India, we will be talking about. Then later on there are some other points followed it. That is a tripartite struggle for Kanauj, then administration in North India, then a society and economy in North India, then a Turkish invasion and Cholas, and then the last one is a Chola administration, that is agricultural expansion. So the period actually begins from this Middle Age, especially 700 to 1200 CE, Common Era. In fact, this witnessed the rise of many regional kingdoms. Here, the period is they have given about the 700 to 1200 CE. Now, within this period of time, in fact, we will be talking about the medieval age, especially during this time. A group of people, in fact, actually started rising their power, and then how they actually became the dominant. And then this is actually more about study we will have in this chapter 2. So here, let us know about this rise of new kingdoms. Now, first of all, there were many kingdoms were actually rose during this time. So here, Pratiharas one of them. So we will talk about the Pratiharas. Now, this Pratiharas also known as the Gujara Pratiharas. So, or rather Gurjara Pratiharas. So this is the name you have to keep in mind. That here this group actually became the dominated. Which part of this India, especially the western part of India, and you can see that even this powerful this group in fact became very much like a dominant even in the upper Gangetic like a valley. So this group actually established their kingdom, especially in Mewar, or we call it like a Marwar. So they became prominent during the reign of Nagabhatta the first. So Nagabhatta's the name comes here in this chapter especially, and his tenure was actually, or his duration was actually about from 750 to 780 CE. So within this time period actually he was actually ruling, and then he conquered Malwa and Baruch, and he defeated the Arabs in fact who wanted to actually capture Malwa. So it means from the Arab, they wanted to invade, they wanted to capture, yet Nagabhatta actually defended, and he protected, and then he defeated them. So that is the actually the achievement actually done by this Nagabhatta the first. Then we have you see it was under like a Mihir Bhuja, that is 836 to 890 CE, that the Pratiharas became very powerful. So during this time period, especially 836 to 890, after the defeat of or after winning, to the Arabs and all, how they actually thought themselves, or hey, they considered themselves to be powerful. So here we can see it. So and again, Mihir Bhuja expanded his Pratihara territory by conquering Punjab. So Punjab was actually was captured, and then Awadh, then Malwa, and Gujarat. So these are the few territories. In fact, he won, and then he expanded his kingdoms over these states. So he made a Kanauj his capital. Now Kanauj has become the capital. Why? Because this Kanauj is right from the beginning. It is the center. It is a trade. It is like a fertile, and a huge number of like development was taking place in this Kanauj. So he made this a capital Kannauj, and then the Pratihara dynasty actually declined by the end of the 10th century. So 10th century is the time for this Pratihara to be declined, and especially became very weak, and they were defeated maybe by the other rulers. So here, the next we will talk about the Palas. Now these Palas are, in fact, is a found especially Bengal, Bihar, and parts of Odisha, and also Nepal. So, so this particular Palas, in fact, actually also became the powerful. And then the Pala rulers followed the policy of territorial expansion, and were actually also in conflict with the Pratiharas and then Rashtrakutas. It means these Pala rulers, in fact, they have got kind of like a craziness in them, and in order to expand their territory, even they proceed to the where the already the kingdom is already settled, or the king is there. So such kind of places they are expanding, and because of that they have to struggle. Even today, for example, in the border of India, especially Pakistan is trying to occupy, China is trying to occupy, and then Nepal wants to occupy. So this kind of occupation is taking place, especially the territories. Sometimes they are misunderstanding about their border, which is their border, and they are crossing through, and then creating the some sort of like a border issue. So this is also part of the here also we can see that most of the these kingdoms were moving to the other territories, and then by force sometimes they are actually trying to fight, and then in the fight in fact they win, and then they capture the territories. So this is actually the craziness. So here we will be talking about again like the Pala rulers actually followed the policy of territorial expansion, and were also in a conflict with the Pratiharas and Rashtrakutas. Now the prominent rulers of the Pala dynasty included Devapala and Mahipala the first, and Ramapala, that is a 1082 to 1124 CE, was the last great ruler of the Pala dynasty. And after Ramapala, the Pala kingdom slowly disintegrated in the 12th century due to Khilji's invasion. Now you have to see that this is the Sultanate period actually began. At that time, during the Sultanate period, in fact, this Pala kingdom was actually defeated by Khilji's invasion. This was Khilji actually also part of the. So anyway, this is how actually the Pala rulers the kingdom was actually declined. Next we have the Rashtrakutas. Now this Rashtrakutas were actually chieftains in central India. Their territories or their things were actually found in the central India, and they later rose to the actually position of an independent ruling dynasty in the Deccan. And Danti Durga, one of the name is mentioned here. There is 752 to 756 CE, was the founder of the Rashtrakutas, and it was during his rule that the Rashtrakutas rose to prominence after defeating the Chalukyas. So here one group is dominating to other, and then they are actually becoming the famous, and then because of the famousness, they are actually making their names and fames all over these territories, and others are actually considering them to be the powerful. So here you can see the Rashtrakutas established their capital at Malkhed, and then in the Gulbarga district of Karnataka, and they were known to be also, able administrators, and also excelled in military. And then the strong Rashtrakutas army fought the Palas and Pratiharas, and they were also in conflict with the Pallavas. Then they were also in conflict always with the Pallavas, and the power of the great Rashtrakutas dynasty declined by the 10th century. So you can understand here the Rashtrakutas, in fact, beginning they are becoming powerful. Then in middle they are winning the territories, and later on again they decline themselves. So that is the thing we have seen in most of the kingdoms. So next we will talk about the rise of Rajputs. Now Rajputs also what they are actually considering. Now Rajput, the term Rajput means actually the son of the ruler. Now Rajputs were actually of Kshatriya origin and were divided into Suryavanshi, that is descendants of sun, or Chandravanshi or descendants of moon. The Rajputs actually played a significant role in the North India during the 9th and 12th century. And the Chauhans or the Chauhamanas emerged as the most powerful Rajput clan. And the Chauhamanas actually were the vassals of the Pratiharas, and the greatest Chauhamana ruler was actually Prithviraj Chauhan. So here you can find this different groups of people actually rose in themselves, and then they declined also. So this is all about the three kingdoms of especially 700 to 1200 CE. Next we have got tripartite struggle of for Kanauj. Now Kanauj is being a very fertile and a very powerful, very healthy and trading centers. You know, everyone's eyes was actually falling in these territories, and as a result of that, you know, most of the kingdoms were trying to capture it, but then they were unable. So now you can see that a three-party, it means a three-party, three kingdoms. In fact, they joined, or rather they attack this Kanauj, and then they destroy this Kanauj, being a very fertile and very like a famous trading centers. So here what happened? Kanauj was actually situated near the banks of like a Ganga river. You must know that whenever any of the town and cities is situated near the river valley, you know, certainly you can see most of the famous things are happening there, and either construction, either agriculture, or any other parts is becoming very famous. So many regional kingdoms wanted control of Kanauj, and Kanauj was a flourishing city since the times of Harshavardhana. So being in the vicinity of a river made it advantageous for trade and agriculture. So as I have already mentioned. So even after Harshavardhana's death, Kanauj held significance for many of the regional kingdoms. Now the three the three main kingdoms of Pratiharas, Palas, and Rashtrakutas got engaged in a tripartite struggle to conquer the city of Kanauj. Now you must remember, all these kingdoms, in fact, they tried their level best to capture this Kanauj, and then what happened here? The conquer Kanauj the conquest of Kanauj was actually essential for political supremacy in North and Central India. Now it also enabled the control of the fertile Gangetic Valley. So everyone actually trying to get it this particular area, and because of that one, you know, they have actually destroyed this sentiments or the mentality of these people, and then they have. So therefore, we have to really know that why kingdoms or the kings, in fact, actually very much crazy in expanding their territories, and in this condition, actually, what happens? They actually destroy the other kingdoms. They destroy the all roots. So that is we can see. So here next we have got administration in North India. Now what type of administration we have got in this North India? The king held supreme authority, and he was assisted by a council of ministers, and he was also the a commander in chief in the army. So that is the king held the same type of powers in everywhere. So during this period, the power of the king actually weakened, and feudal lords known as the Samantas emerged. Now Samantas were actually a group of people. So here, how this is Samantas are actually functioning their work activity and all. So in lieu of salary, the king would give them land, and the main function of the Samantas was to provide military assistance during the war. Okay, so the Samantas were having their own military troops, and whenever the king needs for the any of the a war and all to be, or the battle to be handled, then these Samantas were actually taking lead of that, and then they are bringing their troops. So the Samantas were actually given the land grants sometimes for their survival, for their living. So these samantas were actually sometimes collecting the revenue from here, and they are surviving. Okay. Then again, you can find here the declared their independence as soon as they found an opportunity to do so. It means you can understand that they are like almost like a king, and they are actually dominating that area, and under that person actually the other this kingdoms like a small these territories are actually functioning. So as soon as the king is somehow is supposed died, then they consider themselves the independent from this king. So that is what's actually happening that time. So here opportunity so for instance, for example, you can see that the Rashtrakutas, who were the feudatories of the Chalukyas, declared their independence after Dante Durga defeated the Chalukyan king Kirtivarman. So here you can see the example. So some officers who assisted the king in the administration of the kingdom included the Sandhi Vigrahika, that is foreign minister, then a Banda Garhika, that is officer of the government store. Then you can see the Kotapala, that is inspector of force, and a Akshapati Palika, that is a revenue minister, and a Raj Purohita, that is royal priest. So these are the few things actually were actually given the what called the responsibility. So the kingdom was actually divided into bhuktis or provinces, which were actually further divided into vishyas, and the governor was actually assigned to look after the bhuktis, and while the vishyas were actually looked after by the vishyapati. So village was actually the smallest unit that was actually looked after the gramapati or a village headman, and the village had their own administrative setup that was actually overlooked by the village headman, who was actually assisted by some officers. So these are the few things we can get it from there. So that is we will talk about. Alright, then society. The society was actually based on the caste system, and the Kshatriyas along with the Brahmanas enjoy the highest position in the society. That is we have got. And the Vaishyas comprise the traders and the merchants who played an important role in the city of administration. Then a third one, the Sudras perform all menial jobs and had no rights as like a rich people. So here the Alberuni, who was actually witnessing this caste rigidity, and also he has written about the Tahqiq Hind. Then Alberuni also makes a mention of a new group that emerged during this period, that is Kayasthas, who perform clerical work, were mostly bookkeepers, and the position of women declared sati and child marriage were practiced in this time. So it may say this is the Brahmanas period, in fact. Okay. Then economy, how it was actually done. Economy, the two main occupations were actually, there is agriculture and a trade, and the regional kingdoms of this period had trade contacts with the Southeast Asia, China, the Mediterranean, and the Western world. So you can see that, and most of the things are actually included here, especially like a business and all, that is spices, precious stones, textiles. Then horses were regularly imported to the Indian subcontinent. Trade guilds or shrenis were actually established to regulate trade, and the members of the trade guild held an important position in the city administration as well. So these are the few things you have to keep in mind. In my next video, I will talk about the Turkish invasions. Okay.